Global Television, building the nation.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment that eventually boiled over into that tragedy.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
No shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for all. My hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Global Television, building the nation.
I am for everybody, I am for nobody.
No, you not talk about me. No.
In another way.
How are you sure, sir?
Keep quiet. I am in another way. I am
the only area where Buhari defeats for that statement. Now only appointment. When you are talking about project, the project spell out. If you say spell out, what does it mean? But if you say appointment, and in the type of appointment, you appoint people in front.
A very good morning to you and welcome to Global Morning here on Global Television. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Star Times Channel 276. I'm Uyi Agbumofwegbe and I have with me, as always, on the show this morning, Kemi Asheko.
A very good morning to you, Uyi. You look good. I like the red and blue.
Thank you. I'm intentional
and you're almost
about my
blushing,
life.
actually.
Yeah, that got to me.
It's a pleasure to be here with you again
I
this
share that
morning.
pleasure.
The papers are looking very hot.
Very, very.
From the Dangote refinery launch and all of that. A lot of people have different takes on that. So I'm looking forward to delving into them.
Yeah, right. So let's go straight to the papers, everyone. We begin with the Daily Trust this morning. Big stories, as always, across all the dailies, particularly the ones we are featuring on the program. Daily Trust has one big one, of course, just around the Dangote refinery that was officially commissioned yesterday. Dangote refinery, a game changer. That's the #1 citizen of the country speaking there, President Muhammadu Buhari, flags off Lake Chad oil drilling today. Nigeria to be self-sufficient, Dangote, to generate $21 billion, employ over 100,000 youths. African company for Africa by an African entrepreneur. That's ECOWAS speaking about the Dangote refinery. Of course, it's pivotal, it's a game changer, and it's a curve for the oil industry across Africa. Kemi, you want to say a word or two about that?
Well, I did see an article written by Bayo Ononuga with regards to the Dangote refinery, where he was actually referring to Alhaji Aliko Dangote's 55th birthday. And at that 55th birthday gathering, you know, you had quite a number of people speaking, and they were talking about some of the challenges that Nigeria has. And one of the things, you know, that was said there at that round table with some journalists and businessmen celebrating Alhaji Aliko Dangote at 55, and he said, one person there said, it will take a foolish man to build a refinery in Nigeria. And as they said, after a few minutes, according to the article by Mr. Bayo Ononuga, he said after a few minutes, Alhaji Aliko Dangote said, "I am that foolish man." And then he outlined his plans to build a refinery in Nigeria, and the rest is history, as they say. Yesterday, that dream, of what someone had called foolish became a reality, and just right there before our very eyes. And for me, I think that it says a lot about a man who sees a lot where others see problems, a man who sees opportunities where others see challenges. It says a lot about a man who's willing to go the whole hog. It says a lot about a man, who believes in Nigeria. And I can imagine if we have many more people, who believe enough in Nigeria to decide that they want to give back to this nation. They want to build something that will outlast them for the nation, whether you like it or not. The Dangote refinery will outlast, even Alhaji Aliko Dangote himself, but it will not outlast Nigeria, because Nigeria will be here, the refinery will be here, and it is said that at full capacity, that refinery would actually be churning out about 600,000 barrels per day. According to the statistician, they say that it is more than the amount of fuel that we need in a day, and that the refinery itself can power the whole southwestern states outside of Lagos. Because, of course, you know that Lagos has a lot of industries and all of that. So, for me, I think that as Nigerians in our own micro spaces, we should try to build the Dangote mindset. It's easy to say, oh, we don't want to give, that whatever you put in Nigeria will get sunk. It's easy to have that negative mindset that, oh, it will take a foolish person to do this for Nigeria. But if we look at it from that angle, that there is nobody, I keep, reiterating this, that there is nobody coming to build Nigeria for Nigerians. Nigerians themselves must decide that enough is enough. It's time for us to build our nation. And I commend and, celebrate everyone who, came together to get that refinery started, especially the visionary himself, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. There's a lot to celebrate with that.
Right. Okay, it's a new dawn for Nigeria, especially in the O&G sector with regards to these stories. So we'll take a look at just a few more stories above the big headline there, beneath the nameplates of the Daily Trust this morning. Experts want Tinubu to insist on synergy among security forces. Of course, we know what the good book says about the house divided against itself. Okay, CBN's stalled intervention disrupts activities at Buhari's alma mater. All right, stakeholders reject renaming of aviation ministry, want return to transportation. Like they say, what difference does it make when you change the name, or what's in the name, really?
For me, I think that one of the challenges we have in Nigeria is that every time something is put forward, you have people who also come forward to say no. So there's always this dragging of, positions and all of that. It was said that they want to change it from Ministry of Aviation, to Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Management, if I'm correct with that. Right. And people are saying no. But then when it was changed from just Ministry of Communications to Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy.
Nobody had a fight.
Well, there must have been one or two people who didn't understand it. But if you're saying you're moving from just aviation and you're adding aerospace management and all of that to it, it's because you understand that unless you want to have a different ministry for just aerospace and all of that, which will just be duplicating the processes, because if you understand aviation, you should be able to understand aerospace and all of that, but my challenge is that every time something is suggested, there always seems to be some people who will say, no, we don't want it that way, the rabble rousers, as they call them, and we need to work on that in Nigeria. Why do they want to change it? Why don't you want them to change it before you start causing chaos in the society? So as we evolve, the Ministry of Aviation has been there for a while. And as we evolve, if we see that there is a need to add more things to it, then we might as well do that.
Right. I think, again, it comes down to the tendency to want to listen to react rather than listen to understand, and then we have a conversation around what is in the best interest of the nation.
Absolutely.
Really, yeah. But again, it means we need to see far beyond politics to be able to do that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let's move to our next paper, everyone. First News is our next port of call this morning. Let's see what First News has got for us. Again, as usual, big stories on First News this morning. Okay, so we'll take a look at First News here. Let's see what it says. Okay, it says that Tinubu Shettima no fate Friday as Supreme Court rules in PDP suits. All right, opposition party seeks to avoid APC presidential VP candidates joint tickets. Okay, then just beside the nameplate, it says Dango, that's Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu, they're talking, and now we see how the man, and the manner of speaking has moved from 0 to 100. It means there's so much we can be learning from that as well. But Kemi had taken out time just a while ago to talk about some of the highlights of these accomplishments. You want to add to that?
Well, if we're going to take a look at the Dangote story and what Governor Sanwo-Olu has said, I think that he probably was trying to say that Dangote came to Lagos with not much, you know, not nothing. Dangote is the grandson, right, of Dan Tata himself.
You say the Lagos State Governor is generated?
No. I'm not. Well,
okay, you're trying to create context.
Yes, he's the grandson of Dan Tata, and we all know who the Dan Tatas are, right? So when you say he came with nothing, he did not come with a refinery, which is clear. But
he did come with something.
Well.
Okay, let's see here.
But there's a story there on the First News too that talks about Dangote and
again, Dangote has repaid 70% of loans taken to finance the refinery. That's according to the CBN governor. That sounds authoritative.
And yes, it's actually authoritative if it's coming from the CBN governor, and it also shows that Alhaji Aliko Dangote has the right head on his shoulders, and he knows what he's doing, if you ask me, because if he has, without the refinery kicking off, has already repaid 70% of the loans he has taken. That means that at least 70% of the loans he has taken from the CBN, the 70% of the refinery, so to speak, if it's only the CBN he took the loans from, belongs to him. Right, and that is even prior to production, right? So that says a lot about but then his ability to turn 1 naira to 1 million naira is not in doubt. He is, after all, the richest black man in Africa, so that is quite understandable, you know. But one cannot but be wowed by the audacity, you know, to go for something as big as the Dangote refinery, and one cannot but be hopeful for what it will portend for our fuel industry, especially when the fuel subsidy has been taken, or has been removed.
Ultimately, right? So we have just a few more headlines on this paper. I mean, First News to go. Says Air Rufai deposes 2 Kaduna monarchs, sacks 3 district heads. Another Yoruba actor, Adewale Adeyemo, dies. I almost heard you say not again.
Well, I don't know. The challenge I think that many Nollywood actors, you know, have is the fact that it appears that when they are in need of help, many of them would rather just keep quiet about what they're going through.
More like trying to die with honor.
Which is actually like what many people in the entertainment scene get to face, because you have to entertain others, you have to put up a bold face, you have to pretend as if everything is okay. You know, a lot of the times people don't get to know that there's a lot of fire burning under some of the clothes that entertainers wear. You know, a lot of people were shocked when Basketball came out many years ago to say that he was depressed for quite a while, and even during that period he was still making people laugh. So I think that somehow people in entertainment, yes, there's the Nollywood you know, the Nollywood community and all that, but people in entertainment need to give each other shoulders to lean on, because people outside entertainment may not understand what you're going through, but a lot of the times you're going through a lot and you're unable to speak out about it. That is aside the fact that when it is time, that's the debt we all owe, and when it is time, you know, there's not much you can do about it, because if you look at Murphy Afolabi's case, for example, he woke up that morning, hale and healthy, he was going about his business, and he was, according to what was said, you know, he was in the bathroom and then needed to take a phone call, and the rest is history. So, but in this case, I'm not privy to what what the experience he had that that led to his death. But it's one too many.
Talking about Adewale
Adeyemo, it's one death too many, especially for the entertainment industry. And one can only pray that the Almighty just gives his family the fortitude to bear the loss, and to also pray that the protection of the Almighty reigns supreme on everyone,
including the Nollywood industry,
especially in the Nollywood industry.
Okay, last headline here says alleged murder, court stops magistrate from trying Dogoa's case. That case has been a while, but then again, we have not seen the end of it just yet. We're going to turn to the Daily Sun right now. Let's see what the Daily Sun has for us this morning. Big one here: Dangote refineries fuel hits markets in August, even though another story says it's in July. But
no,
again, how much
it says that they would actually start in June, but
so there's a timeline to it.
There's a timeline to it. So the truth is there's a saying in where I come from, where they say that the wife, the person they're taking a wife to, does not stretch his neck, right?
Because ultimately the woman will
come to you. So we're at that point where the refinery itself has been launched. And of course, at the launch yesterday, you had so many presidents from across Nigeria, from across Africa,
right.
Attending that event. The Niger president was there, the Senegalese president was there representing himself, and the Togo president. There was so many other presidents, attended. I think about 7 or so, thereabout. And of course, it's a new dawn for Africa, right? So whether the fuel that is refined from the Dangote refinery comes out in June, or it comes out in July, or it comes out in August, or in September, October, November, what matters is that it will eventually come, and we're looking forward to it.
Great. Let's see. PDP-LP lose bid for live broadcast of tribunal proceedings. Ruling not setback, says Atiku, a party. Is this more protracted than you pictured earlier, the tribunal proceedings?
Well, if you look at what has been going on in the tribunals in recent times, you'd see that it almost appears as if the PDP and the Labour Party are not really ready. Because if you have been saying, oh, this thing did not go as it should have, and then for the Labour Party, for example, is saying, give us weeks to bring our witnesses. The PDP say, oh, they already have some witnesses, but they need to do this and do that. Well, all of that, I think that, as they say again, all of this will eventually find, it will come to an end, because whether you like it or not, the tribunal has a timeline. Right? The tribunal doesn't only have a timeline, the tribunal also, will have to be concluded within a short space.
Has a window to sit.
Yes, according to electoral laws, But I'm happy that the tribunal itself actually said that no, there will be no live proceedings. And some people will say, why? Because you see, there's a lot of emotions involved in the election tribunal. That's number one. And number two, the tribunal is for, how do I put it now? It's for people who understand the law. Right? And if you understand the law, you will know that the law is blind. And the law being blind also means that you who's watching from home, your emotions will not count. So if it is broadcast live, right, for example, and everybody can watch, you who did not go to law school, who does not understand the technicalities of how things flow or how things go, will then be here and be saying to yourself, no, they should have done it this way, or this person. It's not a football match. It's a
but these persons will not be at the tribunal on site.
They may not be there, but don't forget that you have the social media, you have the media, people interpreting according to what they feel, right? But in this case, in the tribunal, you have law correspondents, people who understand the law, who will be there, taking cognizance of everything that is happening and presenting it to the public as should. Right? So
people are still going to draw inferences from those reports.
That's better, because the people who are doing those reports are law correspondences. So they're doing it from the angle of a little understanding, a better understanding, so to speak, right, of the law than they will do, than what you and I will do, because of course you know that in a law court, right, it is about technicalities, technically. It's always about technicalities. It's not about how you feel or what you say. It's about what is before me, How was it placed before me, and what do I deliver based on what is before me, right? Unlike you who might now sit down and say,
okay, so let's move to other stories now, everyone. FG appoints Odunowo as new NEMA MD. Panic has had us kill 19, injure more, SAC community in Benue. Imo, again, stakeholders and elder statesmen, several personalities across the country have been urging the incoming government, particularly the president-elect, on how to move quickly to tame these very, very disturbing trend of killings across Nigeria. Tinubu APC opposed consolidation of Atiku Obi APM petitions. Senate President takes new turn as Lawan reportedly shows interest. Did you see Senator Lawan coming into the race at any point as far as the presidency of the Senate is concerned?
Yobe is northeast.
Apparently.
Yobe is northeast. And I think that for equity, it might help to just spread these these positions. If Yobe is northeast and we have the southwest as the president, elect, president in a few days, but still president-elect,
right.
And we have the vice president as northeast, then for me, it might be a bit of an aberration to have the number 3 man be another northeasterner. But as it is with politicians, you never can tell. You would recall that at the time the forms for the APC was being sold, the presidential forms for the APC was being sold. At some point, started to look like it was everybody come one, come all kind of thing, and it wasn't chicken change.
As long as you had 100 million to throw around,
And so when you look at it and then you say that, so it could also be a strategy. For politicians, there are different strategies that they employ. So sometimes you want to take a back seat and say, okay, what's the game? What's the game that is being played here that this person is also coming out at this time? Knowing fully well that number 2 is from the northeast and you're also from the northeast. So for me, in instances like this, I'd like to keep my fingers crossed and see how it turns out. Oh,
great. So as it turns out now, we'll turn to the Vanguard newspaper. Let's see the big one from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. $21 billion revenue, 100,000 jobs coming from our refinery. That's coming from the visionary himself, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. He's talking about the new refinery, which we have spent a chunk of our time discussing this morning. But I want us to turn quickly to just above the nameplate of today's Vanguard newspaper. Naira redesign, massive cash hoarding resumes. Okay, of course, it had been halted. Okay, Buhari to commission second Niger bridge via Zoom today. So it's one big event after another. Yesterday was a Dangote refinery.
Yes.
But we understand the president will be commissioning the second Niger bridge via Zoom today.
I think it's a good way to wind down. I think that it's also good that COVID-19 came our way, where you realize that you can do some of these things via the internet.
Right.
And if he's commissioning it via Zoom, he can be in a comfort zone. He was at Dangote refinery yesterday in Lagos, and now the second Niger bridge. Yes, I like the fact that technology has come in and that it will be commissioned via Zoom. And I'm happy that at least the second Niger bridge is something we would not have to mention again, subsequently when it comes to we will not have to mention again subsequently when it comes to talking about infrastructure that we need as Nigerians.
So we have this in the bag.
Exactly. The first Niger bridge, I remember my first journey on the first Niger bridge. I had my heart in my mouth. It's made of just metals, right? And then you hear this creaky sound, chukka, 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 and then you feel as if, oh, I hope that this is not going to be my last journey to the eastern part of Nigeria. So it's good to have the second Niger bridge, a modern bridge, something that that it will ease traffic along that path, and I hope that it will also open up more businesses in the eastern part of the country, because Aba, for example, is a very good hotspot. I do understand that people come out from, across Africa to come and buy things in Aba. It's just unfortunate that the independent power project that was done for them, was has been tampered with, right? So they're not getting as much as they should get. But Aba is a beautiful place, and I think that the amount of made in Nigeria things that are coming out of Aba, the second Niger bridge will help help those things be moved outside the southeastern part
So
of the
it
country.
ultimately increases access to Aba and I mean back and,
And at
forth.
least access to the east,
overall.
access to the east overall. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take a look at a few more stories from today's Vanguard. Police rescue kidnapped surgeon, 9 others in Benue. Northeast FG seeks funding for 4 million malnourished people. Plateau killings, death toll hits 130 as Khan warns against reprisal. Okay, we hope warning is enough, but then it means we have more work to do with regards to halting these incessant killings.
You know, every time I hear about these killings, I get scared and worried because it just tells me that the value of human life, human life in Nigeria, come, a pence or two or a kobo, right? And then I try to ask myself, what are the root causes of these things, right? Are we having a situation where the hard drugs overload in our society is so high? Because I don't think that anyone, right, will look at another human being and it will be comfortable to slaughter, shoot, or kill that human being. Might be a function of capacity.
Right.
I think it might also be a function of maybe investigations have revealed that some of these people are not doing what they ought to do. So maybe
some unethical practices as well.
Exactly.
Right.
And thankfully, they're doing all of these things before the new administration comes in. Because when the new administration comes in, it will take a little while, judging by the number of the ministries, departments, and agencies that we have in our country. Right. It will take a little while to be able to, use a magnifying glass to go from one, from one agency to another. So for you who's been there for a while, it's better not to allow the incoming government inherit some of these challenges.
That's right. Okay, so we'll look at another headline there. It says that Tinubu will support Navy, says Buhari. That's the incumbent president giving his word right there. Okay, and then what else? President signs Social Investment Agency bill, others. Why judiciary receives technical judgments? And then for lawyers, we're asking what exactly are the nitty-gritty elements in technical judgment? As I say, some cases are won on the grounds solely on the grounds of technicality, but again, it differs from one case to another.
And that's what I was saying to you earlier.
A while ago.
That's what I was saying to you earlier about the tribunal and the
live
the live broadcast and all of that.
Yeah.
Those technicalities are very important. And as a judge, as a lawyer, you're arguing and you're also judging based on what has been placed before you. You're not talking about what the social media has said, which has actually become a very good way for people to air their views today, right? You're talking about what has been placed before you. And if what has been placed before you is not what should have been placed before you, the law does not recognize that. The law is blind to all of that. So I think that let's keep our fingers crossed. If the technicalities are not right, let the judgments be given. If the technicalities are right, let the judgment be given. And let's see how all of this pans out at the end of the day.
Great. So we look at the Daily Times for you this morning quickly. Daily Times says Nigeria loses 2,500 under 5 children daily from preventable causes. That's according to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. All right, and that's sad, come to think of it, because it says preventable causes. It's not like we don't have solutions to these causes, but then you're wondering what factors are responsible for this kind of nasty development.
You know, it's interesting that this is coming from the current Vice President. Excuse me. I seem to have something in my throat. But then it's interesting that this is coming from the current Vice President because I think one would like to believe that he has the ears of the President. So if he is saying this to us, then it's probably also telling us that our report card is not a very good one.
Apparently, he's a part of an entity called the federal government, and he has a boss, a principal right above him. So if we are holding him accountable at this level, how much more are we holding the president himself accountable?
The thing is, the access that the vice president has, for example, to the government as a vice president is much more than what you and I have. So if you know this, one would expect that, you know, then you should fix it. That's why you're vice president, regardless of the fact that you're bowing out.
How about the reality that his latitude? That his latitude is limited. We're going to take a quick break now, by the way. Sorry to bump in. But we're back shortly, everyone, to come wrap up the paper review this morning. Stay with us.
I am for everybody, I am for nobody. No, you're not talking to me. In another way. How are you sure, sir? Keep quiet. The only area where Buhari defeats for that statement, now only appointment. When you're talking about project, the project is spread across. If you need to spread across, what does it start now? But if you say appointment, and in the type of appointment, you appoint people in front. But if you like this man, I'm ready to whether our leaders are the government. I'm going to get the position first. Why you not come win APC? Why not know win let me tell you. I am for everybody. I am.
We appreciate you staying with us on Global Morning. We're still looking at the papers. We're looking at the Daily Times for you. We'll have quite a number of stories. All right, let's take one more here. It says NLC set to picket TAC over anti-labor practices. Dangote Refinery will generate $21 billion, employ over 100,000 youths. And then just by the corner, right corner of the Daily Times front page this morning, 10th House of Representatives Speaker, Minority Caucus, says it hasn't endorsed anybody. Buhari to commission second Niger Bridge, 6 other legacy projects today. So we're looking forward to that, Mr. President. Our last paper this morning will be the Business Day.
I'd like us to take a look at the 10th House of Representatives speakership position, where the Minority Caucus...
By the way, the incumbent Deputy Speaker says it's still in the race.
It's still in the race, and it's a good thing that... it's a good thing and not a very good thing, but it's also the bargaining chips that come with politics, right? It's a good thing that the Minority Caucus have said, we haven't endorsed anybody, we're waiting for our leaders, we're waiting for our governors to tell us which direction to switch, because the impression that some of the candidates are given is that they have everybody in the bag and everybody is fine with, you know, the decisions they have made, you know, but it's good that they have spoken up to say, no, we're waiting for our leaders, and we just keep our fingers crossed. We are hoping that we will have a rancor-free legislature in the 10th Assembly, because if we don't, it slows down, you know, whatever the executive will have to do. But let's keep our fingers crossed and let's see what endorsements will come from the Minority Caucus, because as it is, the Minority Caucus is just a teeny-weeny bit less than the ruling party's caucus, which is the Majority Caucus, just a teeny-weeny bit less than. I cannot remember the numbers now, but you have probably less than 20, 30, you know, of them from the Majority Caucus. And if they come together as one body and they agree and accept, it's going to be very difficult, you know, for even the ruling party to be able to choose the leadership.
Okay, so let's wrap up on a note of business this morning. That means we're turning to Business Day, where the big cover again, I mean, the big headline here is about the Dangote refinery. It says Dangote repays 70% of refinery debts, products to hit markets. August is a special month going forward, isn't it?
Well, I think that we also, this is also a problem with news reporting in Nigeria.
The divergence.
Exactly.
One
would expect that there's a press release to this effect as to when the Dangote refinery...
From the Dangote group itself.
Exactly. When the Dangote refinery will release their products to the public.
Right.
You know, so if somebody is saying July, if another person is saying August, then it says a lot about how news is gathered, because that gives you, you know, neither here nor there kind of, and that's not what news is. News ought to be factual.
Okay, Tinubu's weak mandate burdened by unpopular reforms. Buhari boasts investments, but old problems persist. Women on boards of top Nigerian firms. All of these are headlines from today's Business Day. We do hope you pick up these papers, look them through for yourself, and stay ahead of your game in whatever you do today and the days after that. You have parting words for Nigerians this morning?
Well, what I usually would like to say to Nigerians is to build Nigeria requires the commitment of all Nigerians, regardless of where or how you feel about Nigeria. It requires that commitment, that dedication to Nigeria, where you buy Nigeria, where you find Nigeria, Nigerian products, where you dedicate yourself to the understanding that a better Nigeria is not just for you, it's also for our children and those yet unborn. My name is Kemi Ashekwe. It's a pleasure to work here with Uyi from Agbomofwegbe again this morning.
Your rehearsal today was poor.
No, don't mind me. Don't mind me. It probably has to do with a little bit of whatever in my throat right now, but it's a pleasure to do the morning show with you.
Of course, I share that pleasure all the way. Just to remind our viewers that we'll be dedicating the next couple of days to looking at the Buhari administration. 8 years is a long time, isn't it? And then, of course, we also want to use that as a basis to have a pack of conversations around what expectations are with regards to the incoming government. What exactly are the specific challenges we're grappling with as a nation, as a government, and as a people? And what is the plan? What is the blueprint beyond bogus electionary promises going forward? Okay, so we hope you stay with us here on Global TV. And remember that we're on Star Times channel 276, and you can follow us across our social media platforms. The handle is at Global TV NG. I'm Uyi Agbomofwegbe. Thank you so very much for spending a part of your morning with